The Hermetics sure had it right, looking at the four elements for creation and for understanding self. Now, the four elements date back to the teachings, the ancient teachings of Hermes Trismegistus, as well as seen in the tarot, especially. When I studied the tarot, it opened my eyes to these elements and also helped me understand where my imbalances were. These elements are primarily used in relation to ourself, not only the laws of nature, but the laws of our inner being. These elements that I'm referring to are the common elements of air, earth, fire, water. Now, air representing the mind, our thoughts, communication, the water representing our emotions, our heart, and our intuition, the earth representing our physical body and our ability to manifest based on tangible effort, and the fire representing our spirit, our energetic self. Now, if you're familiar with the tarot, there are higher and lower polarities with each of these elements, and each of these elements, if left unacknowledged, can create turbulence in our life. And by that, I mean the imbalances. So some of them can be more dominant in our existence, depending on your astrological chart, of course, or your area of interest. And if we have certain areas of interest, if we're drawn to a certain maybe modality or way of living or way of functioning, that certain aspect, that certain element may be taking more dominance or have more dominance in our functioning in ourselves, within ourselves. So for example, if we are too much in our mind, which I'm sure we all can relate to imbalances of any of these four quadrants or four elements, if we are too much in our mind, we are naturally going to be overthinking. We're going to be suppressing the relationship with our unconscious, with our emotions, tuning out of our energetic self, maybe not paying attention to our body. On the flip side, if we are using our mind wisely, if we are in balance with the other elements, then we are going to have clear thought. We are going to be able to think clearly, speak our truth, see the truth, seek the truth, etc. So this goes for all the four quadrants, and I'm going to go into each one in great detail. This truly is an exercise of self-mastery. When you go into each one of these elements within your own inner practice, you will be able to see where the imbalances lie, where they reside, and it will give you a huge clue as to what needs to be addressed within yourself. Therefore, of course, creating a radical, drastic change in your life and impacting your outer world, your outer environment. So first, we're going to go into Earth. Now, as I mentioned, Earth is signifying our body, our physical self. When it's in its higher polarity, this is where we are consistent. This is where we are able to tune in with our body. We have a great health and wellness system or balances within our body. This is where we feel safe and secure within our body and within our life. This is also where we get to nourish ourselves and complete tasks, as in the practical efforts of our life. Now, when imbalanced, we may find ourselves overworking, over-sacrificing, controlling, feeling unsafe, unstable, driven by fear, lack and scarcity, and also being very out of touch with our soul or synchronicities or our higher self. Key indicators that this aspect within yourself may be out of balance can be burnout, maybe resistant to change, maybe control, rigidity, or fear of financial failure, fear of the future, maybe also even, like I said earlier, scarcity and lack. So if you are feeling any of these symptoms within yourself, they may be a sign that this element within you is out of balance. Common exercises that you can bring into your daily routine or as a habit integration will be to ground, to try and find safety and security within your central nervous system, within your body. And that may require to take out some maybe unhealthy food choices or things that can exacerbate maybe anxiety or stress within the body. Of course, meditation and grounding, being in nature for this element is going to be key, as it is connected with Earth, with the physical realm. So anything you can do regarding being around nature, going for walks, planting your feet on the ground, being in peace and quiet, and also finding a steady momentum with your practice rather than working from stress and working from fear, maybe dropping into more of a practice of presence. The element of air represents thought, communication, analysis, and, well, the mind. So in its higher polarity, this is where we get to connect with our vision, where we get to connect obviously with our intellect, with the use of our mind, with our conscious mind, but also be able to analyze and dissect and discern and find the truth within matters. This is also used for planning and for strategizing, but it's also used for communication and how we are channeling our truth into words. Now, in its shadow aspect, it can show up as overthinking, detachment, overanalyzing, being too much in the head, the monkey mind, if you know what that term means, but the mind being constantly on. So when it is constantly on, when we're running on our thoughts always or constantly, then we're stifling the opportunity for clarity to arise, for our also wisdom to show up through the cracks of this very noisy place within ourselves. So when our mind is on, think of it as resistance. It is a closed system within ourself. It's not an open system. When our mind is open, when we are practicing meditation, when we are being observant of our mind, then we are going to have an open system. So in the shadow aspect, the closed system is going to be the mind being very closed. It could even be closed-minded, but being on. And also, again, causing anxiety and stress and almost a limited viewpoint. Watch out for traits like perfectionism, racing thoughts, anxiousness, and analysis paralysis. Those are going to be some of the key indicators that this element within yourself is out of balance. And how to restore balance is going to be through meditation, number one with this one. It is also going to require maybe some work with the unconscious. So I mentioned this in many of my videos. It's opening up the channel into our unconscious mind. Now, our mind has three layers, remember. You have your unconscious mind, which is the deeper aspect. You have the subconscious, which is right in the middle. It does hold belief systems and patterns and habits that we can observe and that we can integrate and work on. And then our conscious mind really only operates on about 5 or 10% of its total functioning. And that is our rational mind, the intellectual mind of study, analysis. That is the limited mind, but essential. But we do have a lot of our mind to work with. So don't forget about, in this case, the unconscious mind, which might go into the water aspect as well, but it is going to be a part of this when we can start to analyze deeper or start to gain truth from our deeper self. So again, exercises such as meditation, working with symbology, the tarot, dream analysis, anything that you can use to interpret your unconscious messages and find the patterns within so that you can gain more truth and insight within yourself. The next one is fire, and this is the element of spirit, willpower, and energy. This is the area within ourself that governs action, transformation, passion, willpower, and also when I do mention the zodiac archetypes that fall under the fire element, it does have an element to authenticity. Although truly, when all of these elements are in balance, we will be more naturally authentic by nature. But fire does help us align with our authentic self based on our power, based on the courage that we have within ourselves, based on our ability to show up fully and shine and pursue our dreams and our goals. So it's the energy within ourself that is very action oriented, but it does have a strong correlation with our true self, with our spirit. This element does support creativity, courage, vitality, and transformation. The imbalance of this one can include spiritual bypassing, aggression, impulsivity, and burnout. And I do want to mention also spiritual bypassing as well in this. Very strong shadow aspect. I see it a lot, especially in very strong spiritual areas and communities where we feel our spiritual essence if we are feeling in our shadow, if we are feeling out of balance, if we are not in our light all the time, we are not going to be in our light. So I don't know how else to say this, but essentially there's a big misconception in the spiritual community and a lot in those who practice the work with energy. Now, this is a very important part actually, where there's a heavy dominance on energy work and spiritual work, so much to the point where it is almost negating or dismissing all of the other areas that we have here to work with, like the body, like our earth, like the water, our emotional self, and like the mind, working within these layers of consciousness. So when the spiritual aspect is out of balance, and those who are working in the realms of energy work and spirituality, there's a lot of spiritual bypassing over there, where it's so heavily influenced by energy work, where we also need to look at these other areas of ourself to be more whole and balanced. So spiritual bypassing is when one is opting out for the light and wanting to be in the light, and it almost is a form of disassociation, or what's the word I'm looking for? Detachment from other areas of ourselves and of reality, when we are constantly trying to chase the light and trying to be in the good. We need to be in balance, and that's the only way, right? And so if we're chasing something, and if we're trying to achieve one area and one quadrant of our existence, we're going to be ignoring, negating, or dismissing other areas of ourself that need attention for us to maintain equilibrium and wholeness. Because this is part of our energy force, this element of fire, watch out for things like burnout, excessive work, and disruptions within energy. So if you're feeling fluctuations in energy, there may be an imbalance within this quadrant of yourself. Maybe also even working too hard and channeling this energy to constantly be on. There may be burnout and aggravation, and almost I want to say impulsivity, like very quick reactions to certain things. It is going to require you to return into maybe working on sacral, solar plexus work within the core of your being, connecting with your energetic self. Where are you working too much? Where are you overextending yourself? How can you find balance within your routine, within the daily work schedule that you have? And also, of course, again, meditation and breath work is going to be really complementary for this as well. I also should add with this particular one, because this is talking more about spirituality in a way, or it can be used in reference for that aspect of our experience of spiritual work and the mention of spiritual bypassing. We also need to remember during this practice of understanding ourselves and maybe going through healing, going through transformation, transmutation, and integration, we can't forget to live. We can't forget to have joy and pleasure and fun with life. And that's what this element can also help us with if it's imbalanced. If it's imbalanced and out of balance, then we can be taking life too seriously and dumping all of our energy into productivity again, into a certain area. But don't forget to have joy and fun and life energy. This is part of our child self to this quadrant. It is our joy. It is our happiness. It is the sun card in the tarot, if you are familiar with. It really truly is our radiant self. And we have a lot of energy to work with. We really do, when it is in flow and when it is an open channel. Okay, the final one is water. So this represents our emotions, our intuition. It does also connect us with our unconscious, like I mentioned earlier, and relationships. In its higher polarity, water allows us to connect with others and within ourselves. It allows us to find flow with life and within our emotional self, within our inner self. It also allows us to connect with greater empathy and compassion towards life, towards others, and it allows us to go deeper within ourselves and to understand the depths of reality. The imbalance of water can be addictions, can be escapism, can be stagnation, can be emotional overwhelm, and also codependency. So if you're familiar with, of course, also the tarot or any other hermetic wisdom that you've worked with, there you'll find complementary messages used throughout. So the water is connected with our heart. It is also connected with our unconscious. So as I mentioned earlier, with regards to air, there's going to be an interplay with this one. When we are connected with our senses, as in we are tuned inward, we can sense within our emotions, we can get a very clear understanding of how we're feeling, but also the way that we interpret life, right? Especially through relationships. Now, the water is going to be a very strong component of interpersonal relationships, the relationship within ourself, within our own heart, within our emotional self, within our feeling, within our senses. Is also connected with our intuition, because the sharper that we are with our feelings and our senses and our heart, the stronger our intuition grows. And that also is a very strong, has a strong relationship with our unconscious, because the unconscious holds the realm of the psyche. I've talked about this before in another video where I do feel, and I've heard this mentioned before, I do agree with this, that our unconscious is the gateway to our higher self and to our higher mind. And that is it is the conduit to our greater wisdom and greater senses, the connection with our higher self, the cosmos, the universe, our inner truth, our soul. But it also is going to become fine-tuned when the relationship with our water element is also fine-tuned, when we've given ourselves a lot of time to go inward and to feel and to strengthen our emotions and to understand our inward journey, our inward self from this landscape. It will allow you to connect in a stronger capacity with your intuition. Your intuition will grow stronger. You will get greater intuitive hits, and you'll just know. You'll know how to navigate life. You'll know how to navigate relationships, and you'll also be able to learn how to grow and evolve yourself through relationships, through the pain, through the hurts, through the emotions. It will only strengthen you, and it will only allow you to evolve. Now, on the shadow aspect, as I mentioned, the escapism, the detachment, addiction as well, those can be triggered through relationship events or through a lack of nurturing and love and connection, especially during early childhood. So things to watch out for if this quadrant is out of balance and if it needs attention could be mood swings, can be, like I said, detachment, addiction, dependencies, illusions as well, or an avoidance or an identification with pain. So if pain has not been resolved on any kind of level or layer, then it may show up as a detachment, not wanting to be in a relationship because it hurts too much, because that pain has not been resolved, or an identification with pain and trauma. So a story that has not been resolved or healed that one could live with. Now, it can be an unconscious story and identification, or it can be very conscious and perpetuated story as well. When we're in water too much, we can find ourselves wallowing, we can find ourselves holding on. Water can be a very addictive place to be, especially when it's out of balance, because it is very much connected to something deeper within ourselves. It feels very real. So when our belief system is activated, our false beliefs, for example, love is painful, love is bringing back hard memories that have not been resolved. When those false beliefs come up, love is painful, life is difficult, the thoughts arise. This is from the work of Joe Dispenza. The thoughts arise, and then the emotions become activated, and emotions inspire some kind of behavioral reaction. If it is through choice, if it is a behavioral pattern of addiction, if it is a behavioral pattern of isolation or even attack, it's going to show up, of course, in many different ways, or even ruminating on the emotions and getting really sad and feeling pain and wallowing in it. Those can be very strong indicators of something that needs to be released and addressed in the deeper emotional self. So each element is a teacher. It gives us profound wisdom about areas of ourself, about aspects of ourself, and it offers a micro approach to understand ourselves more. This is also a great exercise for manifestation. So understanding these elements will allow you to create more change within yourself, and then of course create greater change within your outer world, if it is through relationships, if it is through your career path, if it is through expressing yourself in any area of your life. Right? So this is a beautiful exercise, and you can take it into a micro approach of reflecting on any of these elements at any given time to look inside and to create balances, or restore balances, I should say, where needed. So I hope this video found you when you needed it the most. And if you would like to go even deeper to understand these elements, archetypes, and the unconscious, plus the shadow, of course, find me over at the Shadow Project. The link is in the description area below. I hope to see you there, and I'm wishing you all the best on your journey and beyond. Take care.